It's hard to trust modern polling. Sometimes they'll ask you questions that are tricks. For instance, they'll say something like, do you support allocating tax revenue towards infrastructure and new energy initiatives in the United States? And most people would be like, yeah, that sounds good. And then all of a sudden they say X percent of people support the Green New Deal. Now there's a poll coming out, 89%, they'll say, because most people agree with it. They could also ask this. Would you agree with a massive expansion of government authority, restrictions on the private sector, to take money from private citizens to put into experimental new technologies in an effort to stave off climate change? And you will get a dramatically different response. Then all of a sudden they'll say only 47% support the Green New Deal. Yeah, it's trickery often, not always. So I don't usually just support any one poll. I like consistent polling and I like aggregate polling. More so, I like aggregate polling. So when I look at the approval rating of, say, a Donald Trump or a Joe Biden, I like to use the Real Clear Politics average, or 538. Yeah, they say Real Clear Politics is kind of like centrist or right-leaning. 538 is left-leaning. And you can see they're fairly similar, but usually 538 is left-leaning. Well, we don't need any polls, my friend, to know that the Democrats are in serious trouble, that they're in panic, and that 2022 could be a red wave. In fact, maybe it's not even fair to say a red wave. It would just be a red great flood. The Democrats should be preparing an arc by now because across the country, thunderous chants of F Joe Biden are breaking out. Hilariously, over this weekend, I think it was a NASCAR event, at a racing event, people were chanting F Joe Biden, and the anchor says, they're cheering for you, saying, let's go, Brandon. I wonder if this anchor was trying to protect Biden, didn't know what to do because they were on TV saying the F word or something, couldn't repeat it, or if the individual just, maybe they genuinely didn't understand. Maybe she thought they were saying, let's go, Brandon. Independent voters are going nuclear on Democrats, and boy, is it bad. See, Democrats are going to support a Democrat. A Democrat voter says Biden good, no matter what. They say Democratic Party good, no matter what. And it's scary. But it's the independent voters that are supporting them, which are really scary to me, because that's the middle ground support they need to push their agenda, which is failing. Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin, Democrats in moderate to Republican states, and they're saying no. Because independent voters are like, dude, we will vote you out. We will not support this. It's getting so bad that activists chased Sinema into a bathroom. Man, could you imagine you're like in class, you're a teacher, and you're like, oh man, I gotta go. I don't worry, I can hold it. And you're going to the bathroom and they filmed her the whole time. These people are psychotic, mind you. We don't need polls to show us that regular people across this country at all these different sporting events and stadiums screaming F Joe Biden. We don't need the polls to tell us how people feel about him. This is it. This is regular America. And it's happening all over the place. And there are a lot of reasons people are upset. The economy's in shambles. COVID's not getting any better. They got vaccinated twice, put on their masks, and nothing's changed. Many of them probably feel really stupid. They said, we'll all get back to normal if you just do as you're told. Just get the vaccine. It'll all be back to normal. And they did. Nothing's back to normal. Now they're probably frustrated. I mean, we're seeing protests all over the country. In the U.S., we're not seeing riots yet. We don't have the same kind of authoritarianism as some of these countries, but in Europe, it's actually not as bad, and more people are rioting. Where's New York? That's what's fascinating to me. You look at France. I mean, they protest all the time, but isn't the left on board with the mandates? No, they're rioting. Amsterdam, rioting. Germany, rioting. Across the board, but New York, nope. Nope, they just give in and capitulate, and it's unfortunate. Because we have the left, which is mostly saying, shut up, you better do what they tell you. And then you have the freedom faction, the liberty-minded faction, saying, screw them, but you're better off just doing what they tell you. Because when I come out and say things like, you should not comply and you should resist, people are like, Tim, you're putting people at risk. It's like, okay, dude, well, look, I'll do what I do, you do what you do, but this is what you get. At the very least, we're seeing the sentiment bubble up. So let's read this news and figure out why people are chanting F Joe Biden. But before we do, head over to timcast.com, become a member to get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, as well as my friends, members-only segments from Tales from the Inverted World, our new show. Oh, you can't actually see it because the menu is blocked by my head. But anyway, on the channel side, you will see we have a new show. It is a paranormal mysteries show, investigative reporting by Shane Cashman. So far, the intro episode is up, but we're going to be doing members-only long-form conversations into conspiracy theories, ghost stories, cryptids, and that'll be once a week. You'll also get an ad-free experience. So definitely become a member, but don't forget to subscribe to this channel, like this show, share the show with your friends. Let's read this story from the Daily Caller. Thunderous F. Joe Biden chant breaks out during the Titans-Jets games. Fans at the Jets/Titans game Sunday broke out into an anti-Joe Biden chant. During the NFL matchup, fans started loudly chanting F. Joe Biden, and it might be one of the most thunderous versions of the chant against the president we've seen all season. You can watch the video. Another day goes by and another sporting event has fans chanting F. Joe Biden. At this point, you can pretty much set your watch to it. Saturday, fans at a NASCAR event busted out into F. Joe Biden, and the saying was booming Sunday when the Jets and Titans played. As I've said too many times to count at this point, I don't think these chants will be stopping at any point near the future. Now, here's where it gets funny. At the NASCAR game, they say NBC reporter attempts damage control as NASCAR fans chant F. Joe Biden. NBC sports reporter Kelly Stavist responded to an awkward situation when she interviewed winning NASCAR driver Brandon Brown against a backdrop of race fans chanting F. Joe Biden. I would just like to pause for one moment and express my personal sentiment towards not just F. Joe Biden, but the Democratic Party, the establishment elites, and everybody who is enforcing the insane fascistic system we are seeing today. The incident was filmed on NBC Sports after Brandon Brown secured the win at Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama on Saturday. Brown, clearly still pressing his win, said, "Oh my God, this is just everything we've hoped and dreamed for. Everything I've ever wanted to do is take the trophy home to mom and dad." Stavist noted the chants coming from the crowd when the camera shifted to the bleachers after Brown thanked his sponsors. "As you can hear the chants from the crowd, 'Let's go Brandon,' said the quick-thinking reporter." Oh, this is Newsweek. They're saying straight up this reporter was just lying to people because she didn't want to admit they're saying F. Joe Biden. Yikes. The crowd, however, was chanting F. Joe Biden. Stavist quickly moved to deflect any further attention from the crowd and ask Brown more about the race. It is the latest case where anti-Biden chants have been heard at sporting events across the country. The chant was also heard at the Ryder Cup this week as fans celebrated the U.S. Now, look, you tell me NASCAR fans are saying this, and I'm like, yeah, they're probably more right-leaning, but football, sporting events, I'll tell you, man. I'm a big fan of David Portnoy because, for one, he's an entrepreneur, he's successful. You may be familiar with him. He's the Barstool Sports guy. I think he's kind of... he's often a jerk, but that's why I'm a fan of the guy. For one, greatly successful, and that's something we can all appreciate in entrepreneurship. But when it comes to the woke insanity, this dude outright is like, screw off. Again, I say this with everybody, far from perfect. They call him lettuce hands because he bought meme stocks and failed. But I bring him up because nearby, we got a casino out here, and we like to go hang out there every so often. They have, the horse races, which we just, we haven't watched before, but we had a good time this past weekend just watching the horses race. And Barstool Sports is doing special events with a lot of these casinos. And so now you've got Barstool all over the place and pictures of David Portnoy as part of this advertising campaign. And I'm talking to my friends while we're there, and I'm like, you notice this guy is anti-woke. He smack talks these people all the time on Twitter. He refuses to back down. They say that Barstool is racist and sexist and all these things. And he says, I don't care. Shut up. And here he is making more money, being more successful. Because I will tell you this. When you go to the horse race, when you go to sport betting, when you go to the casino, these are regular people. They're not on Twitter. They don't care about this crackpot stupidity. And at least where we live, we go to the casino. No vax mandates, no mask mandates. That's why I live in West Virginia. You can also go up to New Hampshire. We have freedom there. If you want to live in New York, that's already soft seceded from the union by mandating certain people aren't welcome there and can't use certain services, or California that outright said the federal government has no authority over immigration in their state, which effectively is a soft secession in many ways. The emperor has no clothes. You can live wherever you want, believe whatever you want. I live somewhere where we got some freedom, and I'll stick around and I will vote. I will fight for it. I will build that culture. You want to live in these other places? Fine. Go ahead. I'm at this casino and we're seeing this stuff, and I'm like, isn't it amazing that this dude told the U.S. Twitterati, the woke rage lunatics, to shut up, and here he is, even more successful than ever. See, that's the point. When you stand up for yourself, you win. Unfortunately, there are too many people on whatever this side is, the liberty side, who say, I understand why you shouldn't stand up for yourself. It might be too risky. You better just do what you're told. Okay. All right. I'll tell you this. Here you go, my friends. When Fauci says the U.S. has an independent spirit, but now is the time to do what you're told. Okay. You wanna lick the feet of Fauci? Go ahead and do so. I'm not going to do it. I don't care. I'd be right here with these people in the stadiums chanting F Joe Biden. F the establishment. It's amazing. We never heard that about Trump. Oh, they booed him when he went to the Nationals game. That's D.C., though. Still, it does say a lot when even in D.C., at a stadium event, they'll boo Donald Trump. Regular people, these are not Twitterati. They may be more left-leaning, maybe Democrats, and they don't like Trump. But I'll tell you, man, the Republicans and the right should have seen this. It would have been important. Still, I think for a lot of reasons, people still voted for Trump in large numbers because they represent, he may be a bad dude, but he's certainly better than Joe Biden, and that's why it's happening everywhere. They even go on to mention the president was booed by fans at the congressional baseball game. One of the few occasions where a somewhat friendly atmosphere by Democrats and Republicans is attempted. They booed the guy. He surprised, shut up, and they boo. Here we go. This is the bad news for Biden. New poll shows Joe Biden is hemorrhaging support among critical voter demographics. Now, like I said, we don't need polls. We can just look at any sporting event and see what people are saying. We get it. And an individual poll isn't enough. However, there's still some insight. From The Blaze, they write, alarm bells should be going off in the White House after a new poll showed that President Joe Biden is hemorrhaging support among a voter demographic critical to winning presidential elections. Oh, and mind you, it's not just him. It's the Democrats in the midterms. Associated Press NORC poll shows that Biden's approval rating sits at 50%, while his disapproval rating stands at 49%. In this particular poll, Biden's approval has tanked nearly 10 points since July, when the same survey found Biden's approval rating to be 59%. But the real story is how poorly Biden is viewed by independent voters, the demographic critical to winning the White House. Since July, Biden has hemorrhaged more than 20 points among independent voters. Only 38% of independents now approve of Biden, according to the poll, whereas 62% approved of him just 2 months ago. Among Black Americans, Biden's support has cratered from 86% to 64% in just 2 months. The AP tried to soften the blow by characterizing the massive decrease as Biden's support among Black Americans having dipped somewhat. In its story covering the bad news for Biden, the AP attempted to draw blame toward the former president, Donald Trump. However, Trump cannot be blamed for Biden's self-inflicted wounds. Not only is Biden facing massive legislative battles on Capitol Hill that are not going in his favor, but COVID-19 has raged on under his leadership, as has the border crisis, which has generated bipartisan blame. Biden has also presided over a botched Afghanistan withdrawal, which resulted in more American casualties. And don't forget, a major escalating economic crisis. And please, I hope you are paying attention. So we had this guy, some financial expert, came out last week and said, October, we will see the biggest market crash in history. Maybe. I don't know for sure. But it's interesting. We often talk about hyperinflation. I say things like, man, I sure don't want to have U.S. dollars. But let's think about what happens if the market totally crashes and the value of everything plummets. It's possible that happens, but very, very unlikely. What I think might actually happen is the cost of goods will absolutely skyrocket. Shortages, supply lines are being constrained and falling apart. Shipping containers off the coast of the Southern California area, I believe that's San Pedro, I could be wrong, backed up. 40 ships can't get in. We're not getting supplies. There's no truckers, my friends. The infrastructure has collapsed. It happened. When a tsunami happens, let's say a meteor slams into the ocean, or whatever astral body the name is, I don't know, meteor, it will create a tsunami, but you can see the explosion, the water fly up in the air. And then you're standing there for a while saying, now what? And you'll go knock on doors and say, something just hit the water and I'm pretty sure a tsunami's coming. And people will look around and be like, what are you talking about? Everything's fine. Everything's totally fine. And you can knock on as many doors as you like, but people won't listen. The best thing you can do is get to higher ground. Maybe at higher ground, you can get on a bullhorn and say, everybody get to higher ground, sound the alarms. Some people just won't believe you. They'll say nothing's happening. The country is fine. Economy is fine. And that's what Democrats are saying. But soon, rapidly, that tsunami will approach. And people will be, well, too late. It's too late. That's what I think is happening. Take a look at this from Yahoo News, Yahoo Finance. Christmas at risk as supply chain disaster only gets worse. It's the beginning of October, just the start of what the retail world simply calls peak. But the industry is already in various forms of panic that usually don't take hold until the weeks before Christmas. Early in the year, the hope was that the bottlenecks that gummed up the global supply chain in 2020 would be mostly cleared by now. They've actually only gotten worse, much worse. And evidence is mounting. The holiday season is at risk. Across Europe, retailers such as H&M can't meet demand because of delivery delays. In the U.S., Nike cut its sales forecast after COVID triggered factory closures. In Vietnam, wiped out months of production. Bed Bath & Beyond stock plunged. And shipping woes, with Chief Executive Officer Mark Tritton warning the disruptions would last well into next year. There is pressure across the board, and you will hear about that from others. COVID outbreaks have idled port terminals. There still aren't enough cargo containers, causing prices to spike tenfold from a year ago. Labor shortages have stalled trucking and pushed U.S. job openings to all-time highs. And that was before UPS, Walmart, and others embark on hiring hundreds of thousands of seasonal workers to take on a peak of the peak. Quote, I've been doing this for 43 years, and I've never seen it this bad, said Isaac Larian, founder and CEO of MG Entertainment, one of the world's largest toy makers. Everything that can go wrong is going wrong at the same time. Please pay attention. Mike Cernovich says, stock up on food and water. It's not going to get better here and most likely will get much worse. I just don't get it. You know, the left, these leftists like to take a few of my sillier predictions or hyperbole and act like that exemplifies all of the predictions I've made. When in reality, I would say I have a tendency to be more right than wrong. What that means is sometimes people are more wrong than right. Don't bet on them. Don't invest in them. Sometimes people are more right than wrong. Those are the good investments. What have I been saying over the past several years? It's not that we have a guarantee of civil war, conflict, crisis, economic collapse. It's that everything is escalating with no sign of de-escalation. Please, I beg of you, give me a reason to believe things will come back down. They'll calm down. But every single day, escalation. They say the vaccines will get us back to normal. Okay, let's do it. What happens? Escalation. Now you need a booster shot. It just keeps escalating with no sign of slowing down. Some guy just got arrested because he shot a Proud Boy in Portland. No sign of de-escalation. Unless, of course, you want to say, well, at least they didn't kill the guy. They tried. They tried to do it. It's escalating. You know, so they can pull the clips of me saying, you know, we're looking at potentially a 49-state landslide for Donald Trump. Landslide if Trump does X, Y, or Z. And make it seem like I literally was saying Trump would win 49 states when I was actually being figurative because it was a meme. Some instances, I do believe Trump could have won a 49-state landslide, like legalizing marijuana, appointing Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang, creating this massive bipartisan support and telling the establishment to screw off. But for the most part, 49-state landslide was a meme. But let's talk about food shortages. Getting worse. Labor shortages. Predicted all of this. Conflict crisis. It's remarkable to me that there are still naysayers. Even after 1,000 people stormed into the Capitol and the left firmly believes there was an insurrection, they still question me saying civil war. Now that's cognitive dissonance. Now I don't know what happens. I don't know where we go. But look at what they're saying. Everything that can go wrong is going wrong. Now people, I believe, are using Joe Biden as a symbol of what they think is wrong. Now don't get me wrong. The buck stops with the leadership. Joe Biden I think he may be the worst president we've ever had in terms of, you know, his job. Woodrow Wilson might be the worst in terms of like sabotaging the country and burning it to the ground, but that's a whole other story. Yet Joe Biden may be the worst we've had in terms of inability to actually save this country or do anything good for it. Perhaps the real answer is Joe Biden's intentionally tanking it. I watched all of 30 Rock recently. You got to watch that episode where Jack Donaghy, the head of the network NBC, is purposefully trying to tank the network. And so he's making all of these really awful shows that are like offensive and don't make sense, like God Cop. A detective's new partner is God, and it just makes no sense. That's what it feels like. Like Biden's in the White House and he's like, let's tank it. We're going to tank the country. That way we can change it. That's the mentality. The left has long said, the activists, they want to tear it down so they can, from the ashes of the old, we will build anew. That's what they've said to me since Occupy Wall Street. So here we go. Take a look at this. They say, retailers are having a really hard time filling their shelves. I talked to a lot of suppliers and they're telling me I just can't fill all the orders I'm getting. On the supplier side, Jay Foreman's been making toys with manufacturing partners in China for more than 3 decades, and he's never seen anything like this. His mid-sized toy company, Basic Fun, is on pace for its best year ever, possibly reaching $170 million in sales. There is no shortage of demand, with parents loading up on gifts as the pandemic drags on. But a dearth of cargo containers has left thousands of the company's Light Brights and Tinker Toys waiting to be shipped. At just one factory in Shenzhen, there's roughly $8 million worth of finished goods that could fill 140 containers. People want stuff, but people can't get stuff. Now, toys, silly. But here's what happens. Christmas time is a time of mass purchasing, and it's not just about objects. We're in October. November is massive feasting. And for that whole month, basically, people aren't productive. Then December comes around, and it's feasting and consumerism. There is going to be a massive surge in demand with no supply. Now, that could be good, I suppose. But with limited supply and massive demand, don't be surprised when the costs of your food skyrockets or just outright becomes unavailable. Here's a story from Thrillist. More food shortages are coming this fall. You might have to get a little creative with your Thanksgiving menu. Here's a sign, as an image. It says, demand for this product is extraordinarily high. They say, as we near the holidays, there's a looming threat hanging over our heads, and that, my friends, is the fear of food shortages. So what's the deal exactly? Why are we facing such an unfortunate fate? According to Food and Wine, it's largely driven by a labor shortage affecting the supply chain. It was difficult sourcing product during the pandemic last year, but it is equally as difficult now, CEO of Stu Leonard's told Today. But we are seeing a shortage with fresh product like turkeys for Thanksgiving, fresh fish, and center-cut steaks like ribeye and porterhouse. It's even more challenging now to find people who want to work on farms than it was before. We're perennially short-handed, Executive Director of the Center for Dairy Excellence, Jane Seabright, told the AP. As a result, processed plants can't crank out as much chicken, turkey, and other meats, which means grocery stores won't have as much in stock. With aluminum also facing a crisis, customers can expect fewer canned goods. With a lack of materials to store the food, including vegetables, soup, even drinks like soda and teas, producers will have to rethink their packaging or work with what they've got. Sit down, my friends, and listen as Tim tells you a story of 18 months where the crises have only gotten worse. They said to us, it will be but 15 days to slow the spread. The restrictions and lockdowns escalated until the summer. Now it's fair to point out, a lot of states opened back up, but new restrictions took their places. Mask and vaccine mandates. So effectively still locked down unless you're in compliance. Many people just bend the knee. Yet still, even after all of that, we still have the shortages, the labor crisis, the failings in government, the fighting in the streets. At what point do you say, it doesn't seem like things are getting better, even after we've done what we're told? Even after things were supposedly changing for the better and the COVID rates were going down and the vaccine arrived, things haven't gotten better. Boy, the people who believed complying would result in something improving must feel stupid right about now. But I can say it every day. I can say it all the time. Complying, giving in, won't result in your life being secure. It'll just be a slow, you're sinking in quicksand. Far be it from me to be the arbiter of morality, because they tell me on Twitter, Tim, you are but a fool who doesn't understand. You don't have a family. You can take all the risks in the world. I will sacrifice my freedom because this one time, the security will stay. Or is it possible that everything you're giving up will just result in further collapse? Far be it from me to tell you how to live. That's the point. I'll do my thing. And it's like the story of the grasshopper and the ants. Winter will come. And there will be people who will be saying, I should have listened. I should have left the cities while I had the chance. but it's only gotten worse since then. I've complied every step of the way. I've done everything I was told, and it still hasn't gotten better. And now my kids are on the line with the mandates in California, but I'll just keep doing what I'm told. Eventually, things will turn around. Wow, talk about sunk cost fallacy, gambler's fallacy, all rolled up into one, and the internet's Einsteinian insanity that if I keep putting my hand in the fire, eventually the flame won't burn. But people just keep doing it. Now, I didn't say life was easy. I didn't say accepting these realities would be easy. On the contrary, it'll be the biggest challenge you've ever faced. But still, I see many people moving to New Hampshire, Free State Project, many people moving to West Virginia, saying, I'm going to go somewhere where my values are respected. And in the meantime, it's all just getting worse with them screaming in your face. Everything I told you, my friends, was true. From today.com. Fall may bring more grocery shortages. Here's what to expect. Wow, that's a really amazing headline. You know why? Because it was several months ago, I warned all of you that food shortages were coming. And it doesn't mean there will be no food. It just means there's going to be shortages. So you'll still be able to eat. I'm not saying Americans are going to starve. No, but there's going to be empty shelves. Certain things you want, you can't get. And that's going to get worse. And it may come to the point where you're eating substantially less. The price is too high. Food is harder to come by. But the mainstream press wasn't talking about it. Some local outlets, local affiliates were saying, hey, look, there's a shortage in the area. That's weird. And then I said, how come I can Google this and pull up all these different smaller jurisdictions, but where's the national story? It's finally here. I'm impressed with the Today Show saying just a week ago, grocery shortages are coming. Now we're learning the U.S. Postal Service is slowing mail delivery and hiking prices. My friends, they say that I'm pessimistic, that it's a black pill, that it's you watch this and it's just constantly getting worse. I'm not making these things up. I'm not writing these stories. And we're actively building culture to help people get away from that. We launched the new show, youtube.com/tales from the inverted world. It's like true crime, murder, mystery, paranormal from a skeptic perspective, but somebody who wants to believe. Shane's great. These are stories that we love, and it's fully produced, 10 to 20-minute episodes with sound effects. And we make shows like that and Cast Castle so that you're not just inundated by the collapse when you go to timcast.com. But look, a couple years ago, what was I saying? Man, the Republican polling is looking good. Oh, the Democrats are seeing an uptick in here. And it was news that was just like, here's what's happened. Oh, man, who's going to win? Nobody complained it was a black pill back then. But then something changed. People are chanting F Joe Biden across the country in massive stadiums. The economy is in flames. There's the people who run the global supply lines are warning it is collapsing before our eyes. The M1 money stock, just show people the Google M1 money stock Fed and show that chart to people and be like, something doesn't seem right now, does it? But then go ahead, ignore me, say it's all wrong. And then, next time you're going to the bathroom and you get followed in by protesters, you can be like, did something happen to our country? Or better yet, when you're on your knees licking the feet of the cops and the establishment, and Dr. Fauci is like, you're doing good, lick my boots, you scum. And then you'll stop and think to yourself, did I always used to lick feet? You didn't. Man, this country used to say, don't tread on me. Now, as of lately, it's mostly just saying, tread on me, daddy. It's funny that there was such outrage among the center and the right over Dr. Fauci saying that it's time to do what you're told. There was such outrage. But now, when I come out and tell people, you have to resist and stand up for what you believe in, they're like, you can't say that. That's not fair. And I'm just like, yo, you're being told they're taking your freedoms from you. Even Jon Stewart, he's got that new show. He said, freedom isn't free, and that means everyone's got to capitulate to the state. I'm like, that's not what freedom is. It is, no. Freedom not being free means we have responsibilities, and it's not always going to be easy, and we do have to make hard choices. But freedom being free didn't mean that the government had a right to mandate something your doctor would recommend against. We talk about how this country vaccinated for polio and measles and all that stuff, the MMR, measles, mumps, and rubella. Yeah. And maybe the doctors were bad, but we stand on principle and say this. Look, me? People are like, Tim's a shill. He says this, that, or otherwise, but he claims the vaccines are safe. It's like these people, you guys operate on the assumption that I secretly think vaccines are unsafe or that that's what everyone thinks. I don't. I think they're mostly fine. There are stories of adverse reactions, very serious ones. And I certainly think the media, doesn't want to report them for sure. Twitter apparently was like fact-checking an obituary. But I overwhelmingly think they're fine. My issue is the authoritarianism, being forced to get one. Your doctor could say no, and they say, we don't care. That is wrong for a business, private or otherwise, and for the government. So it's just, I look at this and I see the F Joe Biden chants, and that gives me hope. It does. Seeing so many people in New York capitulate makes me sad. And it makes me scared that if people are unwilling to stand up for what they believe in, the rest of us will fall because the center won't hold. But I guess we can just stay vigilant, refuse to back down, and see how things play out. But I will tell you, my friends, I have been to way too many businesses in blue cities, driving to D.C. So many people there are like, hey, Tim, big fan, appreciate what you do. Thanks so much for standing up, for us and for these ideas. And then I'm like, why aren't you? Well, many of you are. No, but to those who aren't, why did you cave and give in? For someone to come to me and say, I support you, I agree with you, and I will, but I won't defend you ever, and I won't publicly speak out. I'll just nod along. But then when the enforcers come to mandate me and make me lick Fauci's feet, I'll just do it. I'm like, look, appreciate the kind words, but actions speak louder. And that's what it really comes down to all these people who are like, Tim doesn't get it. I don't accept the people who would come to me and say they support me, but I watch them bending the knee. I'm only where I am because I was willing to sacrifice everything for what I believed in. I was willing to be homeless on multiple occasions. I was willing to lose my job. I worked at Disney, for heaven's sake, and I said, break my contract. And you know what? If you believe in yourself and you stand up for what you believe in, it works out. If everybody just stood up for what they believed in, it would work out. But too many people don't. Too many people are saying, just follow the rules, everybody. Sometimes there's strategy, then I get. Sometimes there's not. But you know what? For now, I stand in solidarity with those people at NASCAR and the Jets game. F Joe Biden. Don't you agree? Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. Luke Rudkowski is back in the castle, so he'll be joining us. The new studio is being set up. We had to do some cleaning. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see y'all tonight, 8 p.m., youtube.com/TimCastIRL.